Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Stevens. I'm CTO with BackBox.
And my name is Hanoch Marmorstein. I'm the Director of Product.
Today, we're going to demonstrate the BackBox network automation platform, and this segment will focus on best-in-class backup and restore capabilities.
Okay, so let's start talking a little bit about backup and restore. So Josh mentioned in the previous session that, BackBox started like 12 years ago, and that's what we started with, backup and restore. A big credit card company, firewall went down, tried to search for a backup file to go back upline, nothing, right? So like 3 days to go back online with the firewall. And they started to look for a solution that will be multi-vendored. Okay, so you want to have, I don't know, your firewall from one vendor and your switches and router from other vendor, and have one place where you do backup and restore for those devices. And of course, make it automated, right? So that's the first mission that we had. We wanted a one-click restore. Okay, so in the time of need, when something goes down, you want to have a basic connection to the device. Basic connection means IP and credentials, and then push a button, and BackBox or the automated solution will go and will restore the device, including everything that is needed. The reboot, waiting for the device to go up, and
OS,
loop.
configuration.
Yeah, everything that is needed to do a restore correctly, and of course in one click. Verification, part of our automation that we offer in the backup procedure is trying to verify, I'll say almost in 100% that a backup file is valid. Well, 100% is when you actually try to restore it, right? But you can try to restore your devices on the production. But what we can do is run a few verification steps that I will talk about in a few minutes that can try and verify close to 100% that the files are valid, and in the time you will be able to use them. Security. So we have one place where we grab all the configuration from your firewalls, routers, switches, IPSs, wireless LAN controllers, access points, whatever, but you want it secure, right? So by default, we are encrypting every backup file that is coming to BackBox. We save hashing when we do the backup. So when you try to restore, you will actually see that you have kind of comparison between the hashing that you have now to the file to the hashing that you have when you backed up the file. So nobody tampered with the file. So nobody will tamper with the file. Secure connection, everything to make verification that you are secure, and when you will want to restore or somebody will want to grab your configuration, it will be difficult to do. So that's like the four things that we concentrate on backup and restore. And let me show you a bit of a demo. And here you can see the device list in BackBox. We are in a Cisco Live, so let's concentrate on Cisco devices. Actually, Cisco is probably the biggest supported vendor that we have if you talk about product-wise, right? So firewalls, routers, switches, wireless LAN controllers, UCS, CUCM, old telepresence, whatever. Something that is important to say. Yeah, ICE, ACE, old ACSs, old ACE. Something that important to say that we encounter a lot of enterprises that have old equipment, right? And if they go to a solution today in the market that they want to back up, even from the vendor itself, the vendor himself will tell, listen, I don't have support for, I'll say it, not loud, for PIX firewall,
What?
right?
People use old equipment?
Yeah.
Say it so.
You can actually encounter people using hubs in their environment, but so BackBox, excel in this, that we have support for 15, 20 years old devices that you still have in your enterprise environment, and you can back up with BackBox. That's a very important part. But let's go to a little bit more, on your equipment. So if I have a Cisco router here, let's do it simple, right? What we do is actually the manual steps that you would do to back up the device. connect to the device with SSH. 80% of the cases are SSH, right? Connecting it to the SSH.
What options do you have other than the SSH? Are you going straight at it with other mechanisms, or?
So 80% will be SSH CLI based. The other 20% will include API,
Okay.
mostly. You will encounter like Windows-based machines.
Telnet,
God
too.
forbid that you need a way to connect to them. We are underlying Linux machine, so how do you connect to to a Windows machine? So there are a few PowerShell, right, SMB, whatever thing that we can actually connect to the Windows machine. Do like port knocks, dump of a database, mount the Windows share, take the file to us. So do a very complicated automation
Sure.
and scenario that it will take you, ages to do manually.
For sure. I was most interested in RESTful APIs for
Yeah.
those devices that support it.
So again, take into account things like FTDs and FMCs that you better talk. You have two options. You can go to the CLI and work with PL scripts, to do upgrade. We'll talk about it, or to do backup and restore. But you can also go to the REST API and then do like an FMC backup that will back up your FTDs, and you see the status. But this is a complex process, right? You need to handle this. You need to see, for example, in the FMC backup, you initiate the backup, and then you need kind of a loop to see when it's finished, right? And when it's finished, you grab the backup file. It's a big file, right? You grab it, you encrypt it. So we do those complex tasks, whatever Linux allows us, right? In the background.
And in some cases, those API calls are to the device directly. In some cases, they're to a management product that we have to use to get to the device.
Whatever supports the
Whatever
API.
supports, that's
Makes
right.
sense.
So like in a case of a Palo device, we may talk to Panorama, that may talk to the device in some cases. Or if it's like a wireless controller with a stack, you have to go indirect in some cases. So we plan for all that.
Yeah. So if I go to the history here, what's interesting to see, if I open like an audit log, first of all, we do not hide anything in automation, right? So we want to be sure that, people that are using BackBox are easy to understand what we are doing during automation. So you can see in the background that we have commands marked in blue. That's what we are executing, right? The outputs, we show you exactly what we get as an output, right? And you can follow up and see exactly, what is done. We're connecting to the devices. In this simple use case of a Cisco router, we do a show running config, show startup config, save the configuration. We do also show version. So we try, and not, maybe not on Cisco routers and switches, but there are other, vendors, other firewall solutions that you actually need to save a complete state of the device when you want to restore it, because you need to know RPM installs, because if you are not in the, in the same path of RPM install, then you will not be able to restore from it, or the same like path of upgrades that you were in. So you need a complete state of the device when doing the backup to actually restore from it. And there are few more things that we do during the backup procedure that are important. One of them is the verification steps that I talked about, and we do. So checking the size of the file. Do we get a file from the machine that we think it's a good size? You can get a file with 0 bytes. Then, you think that everything is okay, but nobody alerts you that this is a 0 bytes file and nothing in there, right?
Not till you need to restore, and then you realize.
Yeah. We do size deviation. So what was the size of the file yesterday and what is the size now, right? And if there is like 30% deviation by default, we should let you know about it, right? Maybe everything is okay, but maybe something, is wrong.
Is that 30% in either direction?
Yes, it is. It is. And you can play with it. You can say 10%, 20%, 50%, whatever you want. Yes.
So these logs that you're doing, obviously these are SSH text script logs.
Yeah.
And when you are going at it with an API, I'm assuming we're getting formatted JSON puts, pulls.
Yeah. So if I'll go, I'm sorry, but I have here a machine that if you look at this and then a FTD example, right? You will get basically the REST API call that we are doing, and what are the output that we get. So this is an FMC device, right, that we are doing the backups with REST API. And you will be able to see here, again, the commands that we are executing, the API calls that we are doing, okay, and what are the outputs, you see here, okay? So everything that is needed, right, to know, we're grabbing the file, the backup is running, and what is the output that we're getting from the machine. So we were in verification. I don't have, we have a few minutes for this backup and restore. Some more things that we do, we collect inventory from the devices when we are accessing them, right? So if I'll go now to the device and look at the inventory, we get basic information about it, model, version. We actually use it later on for doing the vulnerability management that we were talking about. But
does that inventory include things like optic serial numbers?
That's a good question. So, first of all, there is a default columns that you will see in the inventory. But because we are an automation solution and we have a customer that say, okay, I want to see the optics that I have. Okay, so we will easily customize the inventory for him, and we'll show him whatever he wants to see on the inventory.
And for every customer after that, it'll be built in.
Yeah. So you see here the inventory collection. Another thing that is happening during the backup procedure itself is actually comparison. So I want to compare between the current configuration and the last one that was successful and show you the differences. So if you have something wrong in your environment and you want to know what happened between yesterday and today with the configuration, it will be easy to show you. Even further, you have an iOS device and you want to know that there is a difference between the running and the startup config because somebody made changes last night and didn't save them. And the next time that the device will go up, you get stuck with an old configuration. So you can, press on the file, do running startup comparison, and then see exactly, configuration side by side with differences, added lines, removed lines, whatever you need to see in the output itself. So that's kind of summarize what we do. Of course, notification, this is run, you don't need an access to the UI to get hold of it, right? You will get notifications that tells you, I did a backup last night, 100 devices were successful, 2 of them were not, something is wrong, what is the reason, what is the comparison results that you get, okay? So you'll get notification either to our email, SIM server, Slack, with HTTP, whatever you want to see. So that's kind of, what we do in the backup and restore. Yeah.
To say a couple things real quickly. So we've talked mostly about backup as a daily process so far. I'm going to back up the devices every night in an automated way. The other thing to keep in mind about backup is because it's all API driven, it can be used as part of workflows. So it may be that before you make a change, maybe you're driving this automation from ServiceNow and you're going to add a new customer to a router. Before you make that change, you may have the automation back up the device, check OS level. If the OS version has a high severity CVE that you don't want to connect that customer to, maybe go find a different router to connect them to, flag that one for an upgrade tonight. Right, so those types of complex workflows are what we're building in. And the ability to do reliable, bulletproof backup and one-click restore allows you to use that one-click restore in those upgrade processes in any workflow you want. So in the event that something goes askew during the process, you can roll back just like that.
Yeah, and I think what was cool about it too is because this was in the past, we were doing like Fortinet firewall upgrades, for example.
Yeah.
Some of them, if you're not doing it at the core, so for example, it's like, okay, upgrade a version, whatever, you can do it. It takes like 5 minutes or less. But if you have to do like the core box and it's not a part of that
Or
fabric,
you have 3 hops to go in OS version.
Exactly. Or it's like go from version 3.7 to 3.8 and then 3.9. But what had happened was we did that. This was back in December before I knew about this, and somewhere it failed. So we had like 2 engineers out and they're like, hey, we're trying to figure this out and we're figuring this out and what's going on. So that's actually pretty interesting, and that's what got me even more excited about this is the granularness of how you can go into and see the compared changes.
Outside of the base configuration backups, what about, you mentioned Firepower, ICE, UC products, like what about the underlying databases themselves? So SQL, Tomcat.
Okay, so
Just a config backup?
what we concentrate on is network and security devices. But if a customer request and we have it built in, like a SQL database, you will have a Linux SQL database saved that you can run on your devices. Although it's not it's not a selling point for us because we are saying network security devices, intermediate devices that we are going through, but we have a lot of those edge use cases. We had a customer that says, I need to go to 100 Linux machine and save like a folder each night on it. So okay, we can do it. That's not a problem, right? So we have those edge use cases that we support with no problem. By the way, I just saw that I clicked on the restore button and BackBox will say to you, listen, you are going to restore. Those are like the hashing that you had before and when did the backup, and now when you are trying to do a restore, nobody tampered with them. You can now go and press on the restore button and everything will be restored automatically. Okay.
So I just noticed you got startup config and running config there, and it also seems that they have different checksums. Could you put some kind of a alerting when the running config does not match said startup config? Because
that's we do it. Yeah, we do it automatically. It means that when a backup is running, you will get a mismatch on running in startup config that tells you, listen, something is, you didn't save something. Yeah, somebody forgot to do a WR. That's a problem.
Any last questions on backup and restore?
Where are the configs stored?
It's configurable locally, in the cloud, anywhere you want. It automatically connects to several different AWS storage repositories as well.
You noticed, I think the last one there is back myself up. Is that what that one was right there?
Yeah, there is. It's important. We have, of course, a backup procedure for BackBox itself, configuration and data-wise. But also, as Josh mentioned, our customers are running an export for the backup files like every week for either SCP, FTP server, Amazon, Glacier. We have a lot of requests from credit companies that say, okay, I need like a secure, immutable storage.
put it on tape.
Yeah. That those backup will be in. So yeah, we support everything.
One quick question.
Yeah.
With and we might be diverging a bit away from the straight backup restore use case, but do you have the ability to set like a baseline?
Yes.
It's like a golden config. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
So this is what our compliance assurance is doing.
That's kind of what my thought.
Throw a
was, but
file at us, throw commands that you want to be under an interface, right? And then check if they're existing or not. And what's beautiful about it, also remediate the problem. If they are not configured, I want you to go and configure them.
Okay.
And we're not going to demo it today, but at the last network field day, we did demo the compliance an audit and remediation part of the product.
Okay.
So that video is on the
But
field day
think
website.
about the CIS where you get, okay, I need password complexity configured, right? If it's not configured, go and configured a password complexity of 8 letters and above, and capital letters and so on all the hundreds of devices so that it's not configured. Yeah.
There are a few companies out there that you can't necessarily rely on their config file having the whole story. Some are worse than others. Cisco's actually guilty of it with their SNMPv3 stuff. So if you pull the running config or the startup config and then try and restore it, you lose your SNMPv3 because exactly, it holds it somewhere else. MikroTik's bad for it because they only give you stuff that they consider non-sensitive unless you specifically go get it. Does BackBox address those concerns and go in and ferret out all of the stuff that the config file will not give you so that you can do a like for like?
That's exactly right.
My first mission that that gave me, the CEO gave me like 10 years ago was to actually do a good, proper backup for Cisco ASAs. Never in the industry you would guess that there is no automated capability to do a Cisco ASA, especially if you have web VPN configured, because you need trust points and you need translation tables and you need .xml that you have in the flash. Nobody was able to do it. But we were, like 150 line customization script that went and go check all those things, verify, and of course, restore them. So that's, that's kind of what we do.
That is a big selling point.
Yeah.
Doing like for like or platform migrations on some things without that is just
Yeah.
And if it's happening at night, right, as a part of a workflow, and you're trying to roll back because the upgrade failed, for example, but you only get part of the config, you're down. I mean,
dead.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, and you need to search for the certain commands that will show you, for example, keys, right? Because the simple running config will bring you without keys when you do like a running config. So
And for some, like going back to the microtik stuff, if you're exporting, if you need to get the SSH keys out or you need to get the PKI certificates out, you've got to do a file export, pull the file, and then stow it alongside, and then somehow bring it back the same way. Something that will do that is valuable.
those use cases are a good example of why we're successful. It's that type of attention to detail. Did you have a question?
It's a very, very brief question. You mentioned already you have another video on compliance, so it might actually be answered there. But the big challenge that I've seen is companies knowing what versions they have across their infrastructure. I assume there's some sort of audit I can do in here that says these are the ones that are this version. And
That's exactly right.
basically where you have
We'll demo that just next, I think.
oh,
actually.
perfect.
you
Great
have,
question.
But basically you have a report, multi-vendor report that will take all the information that I said that we collect during the backup procedure and will show you all the inventory that you got.
And that would tie into your vulnerability bit. So
That's right.
These are the ones that
That's like the next
Big deal,
stage.
yeah.
Yeah, the next
Exactly right.
stage. Yeah.